Good morning, Eric Boehlert.
Hey, good morning.
Uh, I loved your text on the Washington Post article that Mueller unlawfully obtained emails. Mission accomplished for the White House. This reads like a Trump press release. Zero context, zero pushback from Dems or an independent legal experts. Thank you. I mean, of course, these are completely legally obtained, but this is all part of them just throwing as much sand in everyone's eyes as they can, right?
Well, not just throwing sand in the eyes, but knowing the D.C. press for the first 24 hours is literally just going to regurgitate it. I mean, that Washington Post piece was awful. The Trump lawyers put out this bogus letter. They leaked this letter, Saturday, 5, 6 o'clock. The Washington Post is posting this thing Sunday morning. Not one quote from a Democrat, not one quote from an independent legal expert, zero context. The entire article was just quoting this BS letter that invented, supposed crimes by Mueller's office. The most they could do was claim that he had, quote, inappropriately obtained these emails. Well, anyone who goes to law school will tell you inappropriately is pointless and useless. And finally, belatedly, the next day, we saw anyone with a law degree was laughing at this letter. But God,
Right.
Damn it, that should have been in the first story. That the headline should not be Mueller's team inappropriately obtained emails, says
Right.
Trump lawyer. That is not the news story.
Right.
The news story is everyone,
Right.
anyone, as I said, with a law degree, thinks this is the dumbest thing they've ever seen in their lives, and it got treated as serious for 24 hours.
Right. Yeah, it should say Trump team says legal experts disagree. That should be the headline, correct?
Legal experts laugh at Trump letter. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. But the Republican Party understands how to play the press. They understand the press is afraid of the Republican Party. They understand every D.C. newsroom every day starts out, the news cycle is defined by what are conservatives outraged about today.
Thank you.
Whether they're in office or whether they're out of office. That is how every news cycle begins.
And there's any rational basis for the outrage at all. But please,
No,
tell us more what you're outraged about,
Look,
right?
this Mueller smear campaign, this is Benghazi Part 2. And the press is just playing the same role it played in Benghazi. Benghazi has become shorthand for this awful, comical, irresponsible, lie-infested, quote-unquote, scandal that ran 3 years. And it's become the shorthand, but nobody has learned anything from it because the press is doing the exact same thing with this Mueller stuff, which is breathlessly reporting every crazed allegation, not putting in context, not providing, any kind of pushback. So Benghazi is now viewed as a joke, but nobody learned anything because now we're just
Right.
revisiting the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Well,
in
I mean,
3 or 4 years, if we still have a constitution, people are going to look back and say, "Oh, that Mueller thing was a joke." But
Right.
nobody has changed in real time.
well, you tweeted Trump's lawyers understand the legal storm that's coming soon. I mean, they know the mountain of incriminating evidence Mueller has, so rather than try to argue the law, they know the only hope is to shut the whole thing down. And so we're seeing a highly orchestrated attempt by the entire GOP and right-wing media to try and save the Trump presidency. They know Mueller has the goods to end it. That's what I was saying yesterday. We had a thing with Senator Murphy, and I said, I don't think we can envision an entire party that is acting as the president's defense lawyers and trying to,
Yes.
and as you say, no one that thinks he's innocent would be afraid of an investigation being completed, right? They're clearly trying to stop it because they know. I mean, you can't say that there's nothing there when we've had how many indictments so far and guilty
Right.
pleas,
Guilty
right?
pleas, not just indictments, guilty pleas. This is not how an innocent person acts. This is not how an innocent party acts. Look, the way I view it is, when the Mueller investigation started, Republicans, set out to discredit Mueller because they knew he was going to eventually was going to send a report to Congress that was going to be very bad for the White House. And basically, they just wanted a draw in Congress. They wanted to create enough confusion that, there would be no impeachment in Congress. And basically, it would be a draw, right? They could have their side. It would be a he said, she said. They have shifted gears because I think they realize now Mueller will not send a damaging report to Congress. He will send a devastating report to Congress.
Yeah.
And so they realize it's not going to be a draw. And so they have to stop that report from getting to Congress. I mean, that's where we are.
I've been saying it's interesting if Trump and his lackeys, whoever in the media, think that they can just keep saying everybody says and everybody knows there's no this. I mean, this new poll, you've seen it, Eric, right? 63% of Americans believe Trump has tried to impede or instruct the investigation. Additionally, 40% are convinced Trump did something illegal. 32% believe he's done something unethical concerning Russia. This is where, of course, he has the same thing, a 32% approval rating, 67% disapproval rating. I think they know all this, right? That that is far from what they're saying. That
Right.
Yeah.
I think they realize they can't politically. He might not be able to survive. So again, I think 4 months ago the idea was, well, we'll battle it out, and in the end we'll be able to raise enough doubts, and he'll still be at 32%, and it won't matter. But again, look, why are the lawyers freaking out over these transition emails? So a lot of the people in the transition team are now in the White House. A lot of the people have been interviewed by Mueller. They didn't realize Mueller's team had their emails from the transition.
Which would explain the freak out. And if they told the truth, they wouldn't be freaking out, would they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just like Flynn didn't realize that the FBI had the printout from his call with Kislyak where he lied, all these people in the West Wing from the transition team didn't realize when they sat down with the FBI, they already had their transition emails, and they didn't realize. You see where this is going.
Yeah.
They didn't realize they walked into a trap, and it's only a trap because they lied. So that's why there's this freak out. And again, this is just one piece. Look, Trump's lawyers understand what Mueller has, and they understand the mountain of evidence he has. And so, again, that's why I think there has been this drastic shift. And anyone who watched that House Judiciary hearing last week, and whose jaw is still not on the ground, watching every Republican member just tee off on the Department of Justice and the FBI. Nobody says either one of those institutions is above criticism. But if you're going to criticize them, if you're going to criticize the FBI, just a real quick point. Around the world, the FBI is still seen as a beacon for a simple reason. It investigates political corruption. Most countries around the world, there is not lots of countries, there is not independent investigations of corruptions of the party in power. This has always been a defining trait in the United States, and now Trump is trying to completely dismantle that.
Right.
And that is very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Eric, how do you see this playing? Obviously, we have people sounding the alarm bells. Jackie Spears saying, he's planning on firing Mueller this Friday. Adam Schiff saying they are going to shut down the House investigation. Obviously, Trump has come out now and said, I'm not going to, which, of course, we can't believe anything he says.
Right.
But
he has never always assumed the worst. Right?
Yeah.
So I think you just have to assume the worst. I mean, how many times since January have we pulled back and said, "Oh boy, I guess he decided not to take the low road," or "I guess he did listen to his advisors," or "I guess it's all."
Why do you think he seems so eerily calm that he's going to be exonerated? Is he getting bad advice from his lawyers? Is Putin telling him? I mean, you have to assume that Putin has they hacked the RNC too. You have to assume he has stuff on all the Republicans. I mean, I can't tell what's going on, right?
I know there's this very odd report out from CNN this morning saying he's telling advisors, Mueller's going to write him a letter any day saying he's in the clear. Just like James Comey last winter kept telling him he was in the clear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. Fox News is telling him the house is on fire. Fox News is telling him every 5 minutes that Mueller is leading a coup. So you would think he would be freaking out, but there's kind of this weird contradictory narrative where he's, according to this one report, is quite calm and thinks everything is fine. I don't know. Maybe that's a bluff, but we don't know. But, back to 2018, you just have to assume the worst, and you have to assume. I guarantee you, I think Schiff is absolutely right. The House will move to shut down that investigation. They've tried to neuter that one from day one, And then they're going to set their sights on Mueller, and Trump will do what everyone thinks is a really bad idea because that's what he always does.
Yeah, well, exactly. By the way, I mentioned I was at an event with Senator Chris Murphy, whose district is Sandy Hook. You wrote this piece, of course, at Share Blue. I mean, it just, you sometimes still can't believe it, but the headline, Trump hosted the NRA at the White House on the anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre. So rather than tweet out anything, condolences to the families, etc. And there's, as you say, Sarah Sanders on that day insisting there's simply nothing that can be done to battle gun violence.
Right.
Yes, and Trump managed to insult the Sandy Hook families, you write. In another appalling way, he hosted Wayne LaPierre at the White House as families and friends of the elementary school gun massacre were remembering the victims. And Senator Murphy talked about how wrenchingly horrible this, service was, obviously, still 5 years later. And there he is with Wayne LaPierre, who was the one that killed the background check bill.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. No, I posted that, on Twitter and on Facebook, and almost everyone had the same response. They said, "Is this real?
Yeah.
Did he actually do this?" People,
yeah,
he reaches levels of kind of depravity that people are just stunned. And the fact that he would have the head of the NRA at a White House party on the 5th anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre. As I said on Facebook when I posted it, I said, well, what else can you say?
Right.
What else is there to add?
Yeah. Exactly. Offered without comment. Eric, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If we still have country, I'll see you next year.
Okay,
Expect
good
the
luck with
worst.
it. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, Eric.